Passed, so hopefully all that will go well. I'm not able to monitor that because I'm on here. Got somebody monitoring that elsewhere. Good. Good. Got a Facebook Live message saying we're now streaming live on Facebook. Excellent.
Nice. Thanks for setting that up.
Excellent. Welcome. Where's Daniel Retard on it?
Oh, wow, it even gives us the indicator on the Zoom name. All right. Aaron, you've joined us as well.
I'm on. Thanks.
All right, and we have Terry back, right? Wonderful. All right, so let's get started. If we could all stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Director, if we could take the roll call, please.
Will H. Foreman?
Yeah.
A. Impastato?
Here.
A. Lewitt?
Here.
D. Mello?
Present.
E. Seitzman?
Here.
L. Smith?
Here.
L. Vega?
Here.
All right, I would like to advise those present that notice of this regular meeting of the Housing Authority of the City of Hoboken has been provided to the public in accordance with provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act. Notice of this regular monthly January's board meeting has been scheduled for Thursday, January 14th, 2021, was sent to the Jersey Journal and Star Ledger on Tuesday, January 5th, 2021, as notification to the general public of said meeting, and sent to the City Clerk of Hoboken on Tuesday, January 5th, 2021, with a copy of the agenda to be posted on the bulletin board in City Hall, the Hoboken Library, and the Hoboken Police Department. I direct the minutes of this meeting to state that I have announced that adequate notice of this meeting has been given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. In addition, I direct that the minutes of this meeting to state the following. As a result of the restrictions established by Executive Order 107 issued by the Governor of New Jersey with respect to the need to limit public gatherings and to mitigate the spread of COVID-19, the meeting will be conducted exclusively through the use of communications equipment. This procedure is in accordance with NJSA 10:4-9.3, which states the public body shall not be deemed to have violated any provision of the Open Public Meetings Act in conducting a meeting by means of communication or other electronic equipment. In addition, this procedure complies with Article 3, Section 7 of the Authority Bylaws, which allows for participation in authority meetings by members of the Board of Commissioners by means of telephone conference or similar communications equipment. All right. And then before I have our attorneys give their little addendum to that, I do want to stress that during this meeting, we want to get done with the business of the Housing Authority in an efficient and conducive manner. So I would ask that people, before they speak, ask for recognition from the chair so we can not speak to each other, especially when we're dealing with electronic devices where you can't at all hear people when they speak over each other. So I just ask for that courtesy. And with that being said, Mr. Fitzpatrick, I think you have an addendum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In keeping with the Housing Authority's normal practice of affording members of the public the opportunity to comment at monthly board meetings, the authority will be accepting comment during the meeting in one of three ways. First, comments can be sent by email to hha@myhhanj.com from now until 7:30 p.m. Second, beginning at approximately 7:30 p.m., the authority will allow access to participants one at a time to comment using their telephones. Third, if you are participating in the meeting using Zoom from a web browser or smart device, you can submit comment using the Zoom Q&A function, which can be accessed by clicking the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. We ask that any member of the public who wishes to submit comment using the Q&A function, please limit themselves to a single submission rather than submitting multiple brief comments. In addition, please note that while the Zoom video of this meeting is being streamed through Facebook Live, public comment will not be accepted through Facebook or Facebook Live. Any member of the public watching through Facebook Live, who wishes to comment may do so by email, by telephone, or by using the Zoom Q&A function. Any comment received by 7:30 p.m. by email or through the Zoom Q&A function will be read aloud by an authority representative for all attendees of the meeting to hear. Please be advised that the standard practice of the executive director and members of the board is to refrain from engaging in a back and forth discussion during public comment portion of authority meetings. However, in light of the ongoing crisis, the authority realizes that it may be necessary to address questions or concerns raised by the public related to COVID-19. On behalf of the authority, I thank you in advance for your patience and understanding. At this time, in order to allow more time for members of the public to submit comment in advance of 7:30, I recommend that the board consider adopting a resolution to reorder the agenda to allow the executive director to present his report.
Before you consider that resolution, I just want to confirm, I may have missed it. Has the announcement been made that this meeting is being recorded on Zoom?
No, but you can make it. Started to make it.
I believe Lourdes has to direct that by instruction.
All right, Lourdes, do you have some sort of text that you need to read into the record? Or you have at your disposal to read into the record? If not, could one of the Mr. Fitzpatricks do this though?
No, I believe it's a button that has to be pushed.
Oh,
No,
it is
it's-
recording.
Yeah, we're being
It
recorded.
says it's recording, but I think last time we ran into a problem that we didn't have enough storage or
Yeah.
something. So we want to make sure that's fixed so that we actually have the video of the
Hello.
meeting.
Hello. Good
Yes.
night. This is Angel, the IT guy. Lourdes is having
Yeah,
some
yeah,
difficulty with her. We are officially recording. We are recording in a local computer, also in the cloud. So if confirmed, we are officially recording.
All right, thank you.
Okay, good. What I was referring to was that usually the system makes that announcement. You can hear that announcement. I just hadn't heard it.
All right, good enough. I think we're ready to make the motion to suspend the agenda in the manner suggested by Councilor Fitzpatrick. I make the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so we will move on to the executive director's report. Again, please allow the executive director to provide his report. And if you have any questions, please ask to be recognized by the chair so we can have an orderly meeting where we do not speak over one another. Thank you. Executive Director, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Mello. I appreciate you and appreciate that and appreciate everyone on the call. I'd just like to start about the not having a recording from last meeting. It's just a technical glitch. Very sorry for that, but I think we certainly got that resolved this time around. To begin, I just would like to thank everyone for their extended support during my family tragedy this past month. I was out for almost 3 weeks due to that, and the staff really did a yeoman's job on covering, and I appreciate all the well wishes and condolences from my family. We appreciate that very much. Should there be any unaddressed items that happened during that time, feel free to text or email me. I'm now back. I'll be back in the office on Monday. Quarantine will be over on Monday. So I'll be back full strength, although I've been back full strength for a few days from my home office here so far. So thank you to everybody. I'm really excited about 2021. If you step back and take a look, we'll be completing the work from the New Jersey Housing Mortgage Finance funding. We'll be having our elevators complete in 2021. We'll be having new roofs on all of our buildings in 21. Backflow prevention, facade repairs, and much more. Really excited about 2021 coming. That's been years of work getting that accomplished, and my staff's done a great job on that. We will be finishing and completing our first RAD transaction in 2021. Some couple big steps for this organization. We'll be bringing those repairs to Fox Hill. We'll also be significantly improving our cash flow at HHH. We will be starting and completing our planning initiative in 2021. Again, huge. We're going to have our vision hopefully about halfway, 3/4 through the year on where we're going with the rest of our housing stock. So we really look forward to getting that going in 2021. We are going to be busy. And last, and certainly not least for us, I can virtually assure you that in 2021, the Hoboken Housing Authority will be out of troubled status. We've been working with HUD. I've got a little news a little later in my report on that, which is a very positive development. And so I think in 2021 we're going to have some good news. Best news this month is that the phase 1 elevators over at Andrew Jackson Gardens are complete. They're up and running. They are beautiful, beautiful cabins. They talk to you. They do all kinds of great stuff. They're modern. They look good. They work well. So we're really excited about those elevators coming online. Our staff continues to meet with contractors, residents, and service providers as needed, although we continue to be very COVID-19 aware, particularly during this resurgence that we're going through. We're trying to be just as careful as possible. We continue to meet with staff on a weekly basis. We have had a new round of elections for resident officers that will be able to announce all the officers' names at the next meeting. They will be completed at Harrison Gardens and Andrew Jackson this month. And then part of the good news with HUD is I'm very thankful. HUD has done some provision of technical services support for us through the Enterprise Foundation. We had our introductory meeting with them last week, and I think it's fair to say we walked away from there really, really encouraged. The Enterprise Foundation has done housing work throughout the country for many years, and they've got a very, very good team that's going to be working with us. The main areas they'll be working with us on for this year to do a revised workout plan to get us out of troubled status on all levels is first and foremost to receive that passing grade on our next REAC inspection. We are really focused on that. That alone will bring us out of troubled status. I'll mention later, but I'm going to do it now. Mr. Mohan is really taking the lead on, as the new maintenance director, on forming a team to address all the items so we can get a passing, if not better, much better grade on our next REAC inspection. The Enterprise Foundation is also going to be working with us on a training plan for all HHA staff on management and maintenance procedures. They're going to be working with us on making sure all of our policies and procedures are up to date. And they're going to be working with us on that vision for future redevelopment. The Enterprise Foundation has a lot of experience in RAD, Section 18, renovation and redevelopment of housing authorities. So they'll be at our side as we go into this planning effort with our new planning consultant that we hope to be bringing to you next month. Our COVID issues, we continue to be very careful on that. As I mentioned, we have been in regular communication with Sergeant Montanez of the Hoboken Office of Emergency Management. We have been having COVID testing at our Monroe Gardens site every other week in partnership with the city. And we do know that the city has started their registration for vaccines for individuals 65 and over. The city is going to be providing people that are going to come to our elderly and disabled site Saturday from about 11 to 2 p.m. to help people to register for that. They'll be down in the community rooms and the lobbies and probably knocking on some doors, helping people to register so they can get registered for those vaccines through the city. There is no news on, I think, on when the vaccine is going to actually come. But what this process does is get folks registered so when they're ready to give it out, people are already in line and in the queue for it. We have continued to have staffing issues because of COVID-19. Some folks in, some folks out for quarantine periods. We've been trying to be very, very safe on that. Very significantly in maintenance, we have brought our AMP-based mechanics back to a central distribution point to work, to take work orders centrally, to make sure we're taking care of any emergencies, any high priority items. So and I've gotten a couple comments from residents. Where's the maintenance guy that I know and love all the time that's here every day? Well, we're having to shuffle people around a bit because we've just short-staffed in some areas. So yes, your favorite maintenance guy is still here. It's just that he may be helping out elsewhere for a little while because we've got to make sure all our work gets done on a shortened staff throughout the organization. Late fees continue to be waived for our residents. And I do attach an updated COVID-19 budget for your review. To my report. Housing for Hoboken, they met twice this month to review the proposed planning contract, and we hope to have that to you in February. I do attach a summary of vacancies for November and December 2020. A few notable issues regarding the vacancies. We did put a report in there for November and December because if you remember last month with Frank just getting on, we didn't have a report ready for you. Frank has been working hard at getting people off the waiting list, purging the waiting list and qualifying families. We expect to have 15 families moving in during January. So I think next month's report's going to look real good in that regard. They're ready and leases have been signed in, ready for move-in. We expect about 5 more families to be transferred from different units to appropriate size units during January as well. So we expect to execute about 20 moves during the course of January. Our architectural engineering firm is well on their way developing a bid package to proceed with bids for 42 of our worst vacant units. We should be bidding that soon. Those are going to be the worst vacant units we have out there. We are looking at adding a special project to that as well, which is to bid out and repair any vacant units we have over at Fox Hill so we can go back to 100% occupancy over at Fox Hill. That would be another 27 units. And last but not least, we're working with the HUD Newark office on classifying any units that we're doing construction on as offline units. If you'll remember, we couldn't take them offline during the elevator relocation project, but now that that's finished, we're able to come back to HUD and say any unit that we have under construction, which is above and beyond normal everyday turnover, that we can take it offline for a period of time and not be penalized with subsidy on our vacancy numbers. On our special projects, we've got the roofing project at Harrison is waiting for a weather break at this point. They'll probably get started as soon as the weather breaks. They're ready to go. Once that roof is done, we will have good functioning roofs on every single one of our buildings in our housing stock. Exterior tuck pointing work at Monroe is finished. As I mentioned, the phase 1 elevators are finished and phase 2 has begun over at Andrew Jackson. We do have a projected completion in April. We have started reoccupying the units that we do not need for the relocation effort, as I mentioned earlier. 1 elevator at Adams Garden is nearing completion. It's really just in its very final inspection phases. We're going to be done with that elevator soon. That elevator will then go into service and they will move over to start working on the 2nd elevator over at Adams Gardens. The projected completion on that project is April as well. Under RAD, the final HUD approval is waiting on the bank for final closing. The attorney, Harold, has been working very closely with the bank, working out the very final details. Our current projection is that we should be closed and on our way by the end of March. We continue to meet with HUD on that on a monthly basis. CDBG funding, we do have some funding for additional camera upgrades that can be funded with CDBG. We're working with the police department. We also have kind of a strong need for some cameras up at our roof access and elevator room access points. And so we're looking at getting camera coverage up there. We do have a gate contract out waiting for the weather to break at Fox Hill and Adam Gardens to finish the access gates at those locations.
Hey, Chairman Mello, I just have a question.
Yes, you have the floor.
Director, the upgrades for the cameras, are there other options that we could go with other than upgrading, doing camera upgrades with that money?
Well, it's kind of limited to what CDBG allows us to do. And it's a little late in the game on a CDBG grant now to be changing horses on that game. If we had a very strong desire to change, I'm sure we could have a talk with the city on if we can change that funding to another use.
So, so this is 2020 CDBG?
I believe so. Emma, we're talking 2020 here on this round of CDBG, right?
Yes, that's correct. It's 2020 CDBG.
Can you just give me an update on what in 2020 where the money for CDBG funding went to?
So we had submitted 2 applications, and it was for cameras and for generator replacements. So cameras were approved, not in the full scope that we requested, and generator upgrades were approved as well. The dollar values were $100,000 for cameras, and the generators, pulling it up right now. Were $544,000.
What was 545,000?
$544,000 were for generator replacements.
So the $100,000 for camera upgrades isn't it? What was the total amount that we spent on the cameras the first time?
There have been a few rounds of CDBG funds that we've used for cameras. Cumulatively, we've used slightly in excess of $1 million in camera upgrades.
$1 million in camera upgrades. And now we're going for an additional $100K on camera upgrades. I mean, what are we doing? What are we trying to win an Oscar on, like, on the footage? Like, I don't know what we're building here, but $1 million and now an additional $100K for camera upgrades. Like, the drug activity is still going on, right? The buildings are still a mess. People are still getting in the doors. There's not a lot of crackdown on that. There's not a lot of, I know the police are saying it's very helpful and it makes their job a lot easier, but we should be in the business of making our residents' lives easier, and cleaning and fixing units and spending as much money as possible on those type of items. $100,000 for camera upgrades is absurd to me after we just spent almost $1 million. Can you identify, just so I understand, and maybe some of my colleagues can understand, what categories fall under CDBG funding and what do not?
CDBG funding will not pay for maintenance type items. They will not pay for items that we would normally have under an operating budget or a maintenance budget. They will only fund improvements. They go from things like sidewalks to exterior repairs to improvements that are general improvements for the community. They won't pay for cleaning. They won't pay for unit turnover, maintenance items, things like that. So it has to be general repairs. They will pay for things like maybe a boiler system, or they will pay for, obviously cameras, sidewalks, sidewalk repair, overall improvements such as that.
So is it fair to say, is it fair to say that the $100,000, I mean, I know our boilers are, very important and very costly, that maybe the $100,000 could have went toward the boiler activity?
Well, that's certainly possible. That's certainly possible. We could have done boiler activity with that $100,000, I believe, as well. I think they would have approved that.
And where's the final say for where does that lie with CDBG funding?
With where's Chris Brown over there? Is that the planning department?
It's the city of Hoboken, and according to my recollection, the city of Hoboken has to approve it. And actually, before we reached 50,000 in the 2010 census, it was the county. It wasn't even the city of Hoboken, because the municipality has to achieve a certain size before they have autonomy and decision-making power over that, rather than the county.
But
It does go to city
so where does
council.
that? How does it get to Chris Brown? So obviously he doesn't, he doesn't have his hands wrapped around the housing authority where he identifies all the problems and where the money's going to go.
No, he works with us. He works with
So
us,
you-
and we
so-
put in a proposal, and we believe strongly in our camera system. We think it helps us in many, many ways, as well as the police believe strongly in our camera system. And I think it's important to keep that maintained and look at our problem areas. For example, we're having an issue with vagrants trying to get into our mechanical rooms up at the top of our stairs at our 7-story buildings, and we've never had a camera coverage over there. So that's a significant spot that we can help improve what's going on and keep vagrants away from there. We also have kind of a blind spot along Jackson that the police have been asking us to have some improved camera coverage, because they have a hard time seeing when there's issues. So we talk to the police, we talk to staff, and we try to make some balance of how we're spending this money. We did decide this past time to put in an application that covered the rest of our emergency generators, as well as do some money toward the cameras.
But Director, where does that, where is there?
Andrew, if I could. And at the end of that process, okay,
Yep.
the city has to make a determination as to what they're going to propose to the city council to vote on and approve. And I know from experience with this, that the city council and the city's administration takes all vested parties' interests and opinions into mind when they
Sure.
delve out that CDBG money.
But where does, Mark, Director, where do you, like, what's in the thought process? How does it work where you get to the point where you apply for the things that, is it just you talking with your staff and you identify things that you need that fall under that guideline and then you apply for it? Is that essentially what happens?
That's essentially right. We also talked to the resident advisory board on it. But
So the resident advisory board has comments on that, but nobody from the board has any feedback, any input there, right?
yeah, I don't think in the past we've ever passed that through the board before we put in an application.
I mean, does it, I like to, maybe, I don't know what other people think, but it seems like, I mean, it's a lot of money. And if we could have some type of input, maybe it's a committee, maybe it's a CDBG committee.
I don't want to start yet another committee. I think we can find committees under which it's discussed.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, for instance,
Yeah.
you raised a valid concern about whether we're spending too much money on cameras. I would think that belongs in the I forgot the formal name.
Facilities committee.
Our
Security
safety
committee.
Yeah. And a lot of the other stuff can go under the resident services committee or the finance committee. I mean,
I agree.
a
These- I
topic
mean, we
like
never
that
have
could
committee
belong
meetings,
in
if
a
I
lot
may,
of committees and
Chair?
multiple committees.
Chair, if I may.
Yes. Commissioner Smith.
I think we had a discussion on this when we voted on that $100,000 that we pointed out that, we could have used this money to buy cabinetry for, tenants' bathrooms or even new bathrooms that I've seen, new bathtubs that I've seen tenants' bathtubs falling apart. We could have used that money for this type of thing.
I don't
And
believe we are allowed
I've
to
further
do
heard
that.
complaints, excuse me, I've further heard complaints from tenants that the cameras aren't used. When they have complaints and they're talking about who's been in the building, who came into the building, who's in the hallway, that it's almost impossible for them to get the police department to view the footage and to address the issues and concerns that our tenants have. So I just start to wonder again, when we talk about we spent over $1 million on cameras, we're about to spend $100,000 more, what is the benefit to the tenant? Because the tenants have been complaining about the vagrants in the hallways for the last like 3 or 4 months, because I get the emails as well. And they call the police. And so, and if nothing is done, what is a camera going to do? There's cameras for them to get into the building. There's cameras for them to get onto the property. So if those cameras aren't enough to stop them, what is one more camera going to do? When we can take this money and actually improve people's lives, give somebody a bathroom that works, a bathtub that's not falling apart, cabinetry that works and is not infested with rodents. You know, again, we should be using this money to improve our tenants' lives, as Commissioner Passato stated, and as I stated when I voted no on paying the money for these cameras.
All right, Director, I would like you to respond to that, but I also would like you to point out, can new cabinetry and new bathtubs, or is CDBG money allowed to be used, permissible under the law to be used for those uses?
My understanding is that they are not. So we can't put in for new bathtubs and new cabinetry under CDBG guidelines.
Yeah.
We've had that discussion with the city on that issue. Again, from the staff's perspective, I think we use the cameras all the time, and the police use the cameras all the time. Residents don't necessarily see how much we use them. They don't necessarily know that when arrests are made out there, that it's often due to our camera footage. We use the heck out of those cameras. So I understand that it's frustrating at times that a resident might call in and want to see a particular area, that we can't always respond. Our camera policy is that we don't, if a resident comes in and wants to see somebody that might have damaged their car, done something like that, we don't automatically share that footage with them. We will take a look if somebody requests, and we will tell them that we see something or didn't see something, but unless we have some type of an attorney's letter or a court order, we don't share that out in the public. I think that would be a terrible policy to start. So I know there is some frustration from the resident side, but again, I would say that we use those cameras almost on a daily basis.
Chairman, can I just wrap it up real quick with
Yes,
10 seconds here?
Yes, please.
So if I think you agree, Chair, that if we can have more discussion with board members as it relates to what we're applying for going forward, that would be greatly appreciated. So if you make a recommendation and then it falls under the security committee, it goes there, we discuss it, we give you input back, that would be very appreciated so we can all be working on all cylinders moving forward in 2021.
And no, that's an excellent suggestion. I'll add to that I'll also reach out to the city and see if somebody perhaps from the legal department in the city can join one of our meetings and give some clarification on what CDBG funds, which are federal taxpayer funds, which filter down to the city of Hoboken from the Fed, what they can and cannot be used for. So,
great.
All right, Director, if you could continue, please.
Right. Where were we? Okay, gate upgrades. I'm planning on bringing the revised ACOP draft to the February board. There wasn't time this month to do the corrections and bring it back to the board. I have placed the project-based voucher program on hold until the current legal discussion regarding possible conflicts of interest are resolved. So I'm putting that on hold until such time as those issues are resolved. I have
Chairman Mello?
Yes, Commissioner.
Is that something, I'm not sure how much we can discuss here, but can we get like an update on what's going on and where we're at with that? Because we're getting a lot of questions and just curious. I don't know if we could talk about it now, if Harold could give us an update or Director Recco.
Yeah, Harold, would you like to address that? I certainly could, but
Harold, would you like to address that, or would you rather wait till the end of the executive director's report to address that? Or do you think it's not appropriate to address it?
Well, if you're asking me the question, the answer is I'll be glad to address it. You just tell me at what point you want me to.
All right, I would really prefer he address it at the end of the executive director's report.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I have authorized our A&E firm to proceed with plans and specs for an exterior facade work at Monroe Gardens. We will be bidding this out, getting ready for spring work on that exterior facade at Monroe. Our boiler systems are up and operating. As I mentioned before, Mr. Joshi, our new maintenance director, has been preparing our workout plan for our goal of passing this year's REAC inspection. We're going to be devoting time, effort, and materials to that effort, and we suggest a facilities committee get together to maybe review our plan in the coming month on where we're going with that. The 2019 audit is almost complete. As you know, the audit cycles were all delayed because of COVID. So the auditor has just completed our fiscal year ending 2019 audit. And they're going to be finalizing that. We expect to have that back to the board in February. We'll have a finance committee to review that audit between now and February. Then they'll be starting the fiscal year ending 2020 audit right after that. So everything's a bit delayed on the audit process, but that's nationally, that's everywhere. And I do attach our resident services report. Mr. Daniel, do you want to say anything about your resident services report, some of the highlights?
Thank you, Mr. Recco. Hello, everyone. You echoed, Mr. Recco, just to echo on the COVID services that have been provided by the New Jersey Department of Health. They have been using the 221 Jackson Street as a staging site for testing. The next testing date is January 22nd from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. And it's open to all members of our community and also outside of the city of Hoboken. So no appointment necessary, no insurance is required. And we encourage everyone to please get tested. January 22nd from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. at 221 Jackson Street. I also want to mention the Hoboken Food Pantry. They continue to provide their bi-monthly food distribution services. They are at the 601 Jackson Street, which is the Jubilee Center. And it's Wednesday now. The next scheduled distribution or pickup date is Wednesday, January 20th from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. They also have additional shopping family hours for families with children at home that may require some additional items such as diapers and formula and other items like that. And the next scheduled shopping hour is on Tuesday, January 26th from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. at 1301 Washington Street. So we encourage all of our families to please take advantage of those different services offered by our community partners. I want to say that moving forward, God willing, within 6 weeks, we should be able to have an enhanced communication platform that can best communicate our activities, programs, services, resources, and support that are available in the community through a texting service. I've been working with Frank on identifying a number of different companies out there that can serve the Hoboken Housing Authority. I think we have narrowed down to 3 competitors. We have looked at some of the features that they provide, and we're hoping to make a decision by next week. And hopefully implementation of that service won't take too long. In addition to, of course, gathering the necessary information so that way we can opt in our residents to receiving not just text messages for programming services, alerts, notices, and announcements, but also voice alerts for seniors, especially that may not have a smartphone. So I'm really excited about that. We're hoping to get that rolling, as you know, by next week. And hopefully this will eliminate a lot of the issues when it comes to communicating to our residents, you know, any number of different resources and services, alerts, notices, and announcements that the Hoboken Housing Authority have, as well as the larger community partners that provide various services, support, and resources. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, Director, do you have any more?
Nope, I'm finished. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. We can move on to, this is the point of the agenda where now are going to, okay, yeah, we're past 7:30. So if we could start the public portion, please. The public is.
Are we going to
Chairman,
have Harold address that concern?
I'm sorry?
You said we agreed that you're going to that Harold's going to address it after the director's report.
Oh, yes. Thank you for the reminder. Harold, if you could please give us an update.
Yes, sir. You will recall that at the December meeting, the authority adopted a resolution to move forward with a relationship up to 5 units of project-based vouchers with the enterprise known as MBS. MBS is affiliated with what people may call the Y, which is now known as HCC. At the time of that adoption, there were a number of questions put on the table, some of which were directed to me. I have done a lot of work from public sources to obtain as much information as possible and do research into the federal requirements, New Jersey ethics law, the housing authority personnel policy, and other related issues. I've also been able to determine a certain amount of public information about HCC and MBS. Mr. Recco and I were working on getting additional information directly from HCC with respect to the questions that arose at the last meeting. That work bogged down a bit, first of all because of the holiday season, second of all because of Mr. Recco's unfortunate absence, third of all because we're dealing with a volunteer board that does not have a staff to be in response very quickly to all of our requests. As of today, I am still waiting for more information from HCC in order to complete the investigation part of it. At that point, I expect that by the beginning of next week, I will have everything in hand, and I will prepare a written report that I will make available to the members of the authority in advance of the next meeting, my target being the very beginning of the month of February, which will give you the bulk of 2 weeks to digest that report. I regard this as an effort of conducting the authority's due diligence to review the conditions that were placed in that resolution and the questions that arose at that meeting. And then once I prepare the report and I come to my conclusion, it will be up to the authority to determine how it wants to proceed with respect to this issue.
Chairman Mello?
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Impastato.
I just have 2 questions. So that was very vague, but the investigation that you're doing or the research you're doing, Harold, has to deal with just the conflict of interest question. Is that correct? That Commissioner Lewitt had?
Well, I'm not sure that it is just that. I'm looking at the entire factual circumstance. It has to do, you'll recall, among other things, there was a question of how many boards there are and who's on them.
Got it.
There are underlying factual questions here.
And then second question is I've been informed that HUD has opened an investigation on this matter as well. Do you understand that as well, or have you been told that?
No, other than what you just said.
Have any other commissioners can confirm that?
No, I cannot. As the chair, I have received no notice of that nature whatsoever.
So yeah, it is definitely, obviously, I appreciate the work you're doing, Harold, and obviously as a board, we want to make sure that everything is compliant and clean, obviously moving forward. So that's good to hear.
There's nobody who's more disappointed that I wasn't able to have the report by tonight. And I need to do a thorough job here to assess all of the issues. You've noticed I haven't used that term that other people have used that have C and I at the beginning of a couple of the words. As far as I'm concerned, it's still a review of the overall facts. I haven't come to any conclusion. No one that I know of has been told by anyone at any office of HUD about this issue. I have talked to Mr. Recco about whether or not he's discussed anything with anyone, particularly at the Newark office, and his information for me is that he has not received any information from the Newark office that indicates that there's any investigation. If you know something, Commissioner Impastato, that we don't know, I can't speak for that. You would have to.
Yeah, and I spoke with a member of HUD Newark, and they had said that they were opening an investigation for this matter. So that was probably before, that was around the middle of December. So obviously with the holidays, I'm sure they were bogged down as well. But would you say that you're not getting, are you getting enough information back from MBS or HCC that is enough for you to do your work to make a decision?
Well, I can't answer that question until I see what I get back. But based upon where I stand as of today, I believe that the answer to that question will be yes.
But you've requested the information, and they've have they?
I'm sorry,
given
that's
you the
counter to the
information back?
conversation that you and I had
Commissioner
yesterday,
Smith, please,
Harold.
one person at a time, Commissioner Smith.
Okay,
I'm gonna
if
ask
I may,
you to-
Harold, you and I had a conversation, and your response just now is actually counter to
Yeah.
your response to me yesterday. You informed me yesterday, you asked for specific things, who's on what board, and specific things about the vote for the application, and you asked for those things back on December 22nd, and as of yesterday, which was January 13th at 3:30 p.m., you and I spoke, and you said you had not received those things, and in fact, you expressed that you were frustrated that you had not received those things, that you instead received a 32-page document that MBS marked as confidential that you actually would not share with me.
All of what you just said is absolutely correct, with the exception of the fact that I talked to them on December 21st. Since I talked to you yesterday, I can tell you that I have reiterated the request to the person who is the contact person at MBS HCC, Mr. Niall Murray, and he has indicated to me in a telephone call today that he is prepared to give the information that we need in public fashion. I have meanwhile given him back everything he gave me, telling him that I cannot use it because he's invoked confidentiality and that I don't intend to rely upon it.
Okay, so but it was the December 22nd, not December 21st, that you communicated with them for these items
It
that
was
we need.
December 21st that I communicated.
Oh, sorry, December 21st. Thank you.
Right, it was Monday the 21st. The problem with that, Commissioner Smith, is that it was supposed to be a conversation with HCC people, Mr. Recco and me, and that was the terrible day for Mr. Recco that he had to leave, and I had to fill in for him. And then after that, you're absolutely right. It took a long time to get a response from HCC, and I'm still not satisfied with it. But the question, as I heard it, was, do I think I'm going to get what I need? And the answer, as I said, I can't be sure until I see it, but I believe that I will.
And I really just have a couple of questions more for my fellow commissioners. And it pertains specifically to this vote last week, where we repeatedly asked to table this resolution in order to get more information so that we knew more about the decision that we were making. And repeatedly, you voted not to table this item. And then we turned around and voted on this item, and we repeatedly brought up our concerns about the conflict. And you disregarded our concerns and still voted to pass this resolution. So I just ask you all, could you just justify for the people who are in attendance and for the record, what was your rush to make this vote first? And what justifies taking vouchers away from people who have waited years for suitable housing to turn around to fund this building with the vouchers that we are able to fund? So if you could answer those
Commissioner
questions,
Smith, with
fellow
all
commissioners,
due
I would
respect-
really appreciate that.
Commissioner Smith, with all due respect, we're not going to engage in that. So your concerns and your critiques are noted. They are on the record. We have a court reporter. They're on the record. We are recording this meeting. We are.
But you guys don't want to go on the record to discuss why you made this vote
Went
in
on the
such a
record
rush
last
fashion
week.
because
I
it
for
would
one went
embarrass
on the
you.
record last week, and no, I'm not going to suspend this agenda to engage in that conversation, which is not on our agenda. No, I am not. All right. All right, if we can proceed now to,
Oh, I'm sorry, Chairman Mello.
yes,
I just want to be clear. That resolution is now on hold, essentially, right? Is that correct, Harold?
Harold?
I regard the resolution as conditional. Several of the conditions have not been met, and certainly the discussion of additional facts needed that occurred at the December meeting heightened the need to meet those conditions. I see that the executive director has also said that he has put the implementation on hold. It is my position that the resolution is not ripe yet to move forward because of these issues.
Okay. So so there's no vouchers been given. There are no vouchers going to be given until we can come up with a clear decision on whether or not, you know, we're all good there and there's no conflict and everything is peachy, right?
Well, I'm not sure about the word decision. There is no contract signed. There won't be a contract signed until a number of conditions are satisfied. And one of them is that I want to complete my report. As I said before, what happens thereafter is going to be up to the authority.
Good.
Okay,
I
thank you.
had a couple further questions, Chair, for Director.
Yes, Commissioner.
It was in regards to first the CBDG funds. Would that be used? You mentioned that we'd be taking units offline for reconstruction. Could we use those funds for that purpose instead of using it for cameras? Because I'm reading here about the CBDG funds and it says can be used for reconstruction.
I don't know how we could possibly use those to renovate our units. I'd certainly examine that if possible, but my understanding is we can't use that for renovating and turning units over.
Okay. And my last question was in terms of the our REAC inspection and our trouble status. What was the exact reason? I know you mentioned the reason that we were in trouble status. What was that?
Yeah, there's many reasons we entered trouble status. Almost all of them have been resolved. We had budgetary issues that have been resolved. We've had procedural issues which have been resolved. The biggest one that still stands in our way on getting out of troubled status is our inability so far to have passed a total REAC inspection. And that is what we're going to be working on this year. And we fully expect that this year we'll be passing that REAC inspection when they have it. And we don't know when they're going to have them yet because they've suspended them because of the pandemic.
Right, and the REAC inspection is basically an inspection of the units, correct?
Units, common areas, hallways, systems, they go over our properties with a fine-tooth comb.
Even the sidewalks, correct?
Yeah, oh boy.
Entirety of our properties.
Everything.
Yes. All right.
So we might be able to use those funds to actually get out of trouble status if we repurpose them instead of the cameras.
Well, I'm not too sure which, for example, if I'm not too sure that CDBG money would cover some items in there. You know, if we had significant sidewalk damage, they might be able to cover that maybe, but we'd have to find some areas that were significant enough to do. I'm not sure what we could spend CDBG, we'd have to kind of take a look back at Mr. Mohan's lists of things he's attacking and have a conversation with the city on what might or might not be able to be funded through CDBG.
All right, thank you. And again, I will reach out to the city to get some clarification on, we're talking about federal funds. We don't want to do anything to misappropriate those. So we are definitely due for some clarity, and it would be utilitous to have some clarity on what we can and cannot use those funds for. Because that's a yearly happening that we have been able to receive funds from the city of Hoboken that has to give their vote and blessing on those funds being transferred to us. All right, if we could move on to the public portion now. Lawrence, who do we have?
So far, we have Barbara Reyes.
All right, so Ms. Reyes, you have the floor, Commissioner Reyes, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me, guys?
Sure can.
Okay,
You have
so
the floor, Commissioner.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. First of all, I want to start by saying that thank you, Frank Merchant and Recco, for returning my call, for actually returning calls today in reference to my emails. But usually when I come to these meetings, I come to these meetings representing the tenants or my agency. And today I'm not here on either. I'm here on a personal issue and representing myself. I'm going to read my statement, and I just want it on the record. So I am here to inform this board how my rights under the Violence Against Women Act have been ignored. My situation began on July 4th, 2020, when I woke up to harassing graffiti being written all over the building I live in, from the first to the third floor. Days later, to find out that the fourth floor was also vandalized because I had told a homeless drug user to get out of the building because he was in the building purchasing and using drugs, to which led to needles and other drug paraphernalia being left in the hall stairs where my children and I needed to utilize to enter and exit the building. On other occasions, when the drug user refused to get out, another occasion was when the drug user refused to get out of the elevator, which he was riding up and down when my children and I needed to enter the elevator. All these incidents caused me to contact the Hoboken Police Department and later led up to harassment. Once the individual was identified by the Hoboken Police Department, because unfortunately the Housing Authority could not identify them, who reviewed the cameras, I proceeded to file a harassment case. The HHA was also proceeding with a vandalism case. To date, we have 2 court dates, the latest being December 29th, to which I was present, but the HHA was not. And since the defendant did not show up, the case was later rescheduled to February 9th at 9:30 a.m. In October 20th, I met with the director personally to ask to be moved from my residence because I was in fear of the defendant, who has a very violent, lengthy criminal past. I informed the director that the defendant was continuously in the building, and when asked to leave, he would curse you out, become irate and confrontational, which put me in a state where I had to fear for my life and my children, as I knew what the defendant was capable of doing, as well as the Hoboken Housing Authority was aware because one of their staff members was attacked at their senior building for the very same reason of asking the individual to get out of the building. I submitted all required documents as well as medical documentation because since the issue had started, all 3 of my children had to be placed on anxiety medication. My children are deeply afraid of the defendant and refuse to enter and exit the building without an adult. And I'm so sorry that I'm getting emotional.
No, it's okay, Ms. Reyes. It's okay. And we're glad that you're sharing this very distressful information with us.
Hey, okay? So this is emotional for me and my children. Oh my God. My oldest son is almost a teenager, and there's no reason why he should live like this. I did not hear anything back until November when I reached out about an apartment I heard that became available, which I was told was already assigned to someone else who had an emergency. But another apartment was available, and and arrangements would be made to show me the unit. At that time, I had been exposed to COVID and explained if the showing of the apartment could be halted until I received the results, as I did not want to jeopardize anyone's. Once I was cleared, I reached out again, and at that time, I was told by Livia de la Cruz that the site manager would show me the apartment. That never happened. I later reached out again via email requesting an update, to which the site manager informed me that the apartment was not ready to be shown. After researching it, it came to my attention that the apartment that I was being offered was in the same building the defendant's mother resides, which clearly places me in a more dangerous and worse situation that I'm in. Once again, I reached out and asked if there was anything, if there was any way, since the apartment I had previously asked about was the same amount of rooms as the apartment that I was being shown, if they could be switched or reassigned. Again, I was denied this request. Only this time, Mr. Merchant was the one who contacted me to inform me. Mr. Merchant was not aware of my situation. He's new. He was kind of just, doing his job, and I don't blame him for any of this. He listened. He was very cooperative, I want to say, and understood where I was coming from. At that point, the director was not available. This is where my issues come in. How, if my situation began in July, in October, I met with the director, how is it that someone else's emergency superseded my emergency, since I was and am currently living in fear? Is it because the apartment I questioned was given to an employee's stepdaughter? How is that when I voiced the concern about the unit that I was being provided, nothing was done? Another unit was not even looked into for me. How is it that there are individuals that have been moved numerous times and thousands of dollars spent on hotels due to emergencies because their children cannot complete remote learning? How is that an emergency? How is it that over a half dozen vouchers were given out to residents that were and were not on voucher wait lists, all which can be collaborated if you guys just went in there and pulled files? How is that individuals were given leases and apartments that were never on leases? How is this happening and everyone turning a blind eye? In the meantime, my emergency, where I fear for my life, does not supersede any emergency under the Violence Against a Women's Act enacted in 2013. HUD issued a final rule in 2016. My situation not only constitutes an emergency transfer, it is my right under the Act and the Notice of Occupancy Rights from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, OMB, approval number 2577-0286. Section 3 states the following. You reasonably believe you are threatened with imminent harm from further violence if you remain in your current unit. This means you have a reason to fear that if you do not receive a transfer, you would suffer violence in the near future. This clearly is my case, which I have voiced on numerous occasions. This drug user just 3 weeks ago threatened my children's father, who was coming up to bring a laptop for my daughter to do remote learning, okay? He asked him to leave the building and he threatened to fuck him up. I'm sorry, excuse my language. He also stated to him clear as day that he would be back next week, not to worry about it, that he would be back in the building next week. So I am here today not only to put my situation on the record, but to inform you that my emotional distress and the emotional impact of this situation has had on my children and myself has genuinely taken a toll, not only on my professional life, but on my personal life. I live like a prisoner in my home. I don't leave at night unless I'm with someone. Let this serve as a warning that due to the negligence that this housing authority has taken place with my current situation, should anything happen to my family, I will seek legal action and hold the Hoboken Housing Authority and the Board of Commissioners, who are now informed of my situation, responsible because I just feel like everything gets swept under the floor. Everything is done, so you shut up and don't put it on the record. But I can no longer live like this. This is not fair to me or my children.
All right, Barbara, I'm speaking to you personally now, okay? I'm going to absolutely become involved in this. I've known you, I consider you a friend. And, you know, I'm very sorry that you had to share this in a public fashion, but I can't really speak for the other commissioners, but I feel I can in saying that we all, you know, are very distressed to hear what you just shared. And I know the director and all of us will make sure that you get resolution absolutely as soon as possible.
And I know previously you guys were talking about the cameras. What good are the cameras? What good are they? They see this individual in my building every day. I call the cops. You want to know what the cops said to me on Friday when I had to stand on Jackson Street to be walked into the building because this man was in the building? Well, what do you want us to do? There's nothing what we can do. All we can do is arrest him and he'll be out tomorrow. He'll go to the county and be out tomorrow. You know what my response was? Well, it's one day of peace that I get if he's locked up.
No, understandable. All right, Barbara, I can assure you, we will get on this immediately. All right, immediately.
Chairman Mello,
Yes, Commissioner.
if this gentleman has a convicted rap sheet, why is he living in the housing authority?
And that's an issue we're going to have to discuss with the police offline. I'm not comfortable.
And second to
I
that,
agree with you. That has to be addressed instantly.
and second to that, this is a perfect example, okay, that we should never hear about. And I'm so sorry that Barbara has to deal with this. But this is another example why $100,000 for these ridiculous cameras are not helping our residents.
Okay.
They're not helping anybody.
All right,
They're
point
not
of-
making anything more safe. And I'm tired of hearing about more money being spent for cameras when you have situations like this that go unresolved. Who's looking at the cameras? What are the Hoboken police doing? Why is this guy in and out? Where's the graffiti coming from?
Andrew,
So I'm tired of the cameras. I think we should get rid of that amount of money. We should not spend any more money on the cameras. Get rid of it before we spend any more money.
Commissioner, that point has been made. That point has been made. And although it's a connected point, I want us to focus on, after this meeting is over, immediately addressing Commissioner Reyes's concerns. All right?
Yeah, of course.
And you know,
Mayor?
when it comes to policing issues, you know, that's a deeper dive that is not appropriate for us to get into in this meeting.
You're absolutely right, because when something happens, I'm not only holding the housing authority, I'm also holding the city of Hoboken, because I have emails going back and forth with the chief about the situation that I have been going through. And this is not fair. This man is banned. The cops tell me every time I call them, he is banned from the property. How is it that he's allowed on the property and you supposedly have all these cops in the area who know him? He's a very well-known person, but yet still continue to allow him to walk on the property? I shouldn't have to call. If you know he's banned, you should just get him off the property.
No, understood. And again, Barbara, I take your comments with all the seriousness they merit, and I can assure you, I personally will make this my, you know, goal and mission to immediately.
We all will.
Get to the
We all
bottom.
will.
Yes,
We all will.
yes,
Yeah,
we will, Barbara.
Yes. All right. And you know, I've known you for years, and I hate to see you going through this, Barbara. So I can assure you, we're gonna get to the bottom of this. All right. I'll contact city council people and the public safety committee. I'll contact the chief personally. I mean, we will get to the bottom of this. All right.
And I will provide a full report on this as well for next week.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. All right. Again, Barbara, thank you. And, you know, please, you have my number. Please don't hesitate to call. Okay. And we will get on this immediately. Very, very sorry you're enduring this. All right. Okay. We need to move on to the next speaker. And again, I can't assure people enough, we are going to make sure this gets resolved with all immediacy. Lourdes, who is up next to speak?
We had someone called Kay Velez, but she's no longer on, so there is no more.
Okay. All right, thank you. So
Lords, I believe that was Miss Reyes.
Okay,
yeah, I
Um,
believe it was too.
okay.
And
Aaron wants to get back on, I hear.
Yeah, he just dropped me a message saying he can't get back on, but he can see and listen.
I will point out that there is one comment in the Q&A from prior to 7:30 from a Kathy Feeney. You may want to read that into the record, Lords. I also see that there are multiple comments from anonymous attendees. Two of the three came after 7:30, and the other without a name attached to it.
Yeah, I'm not going to read anonymous.
I wouldn't rely on that. It may be that you want to open it up to the other attendees who are on the phone to see if anybody who is on would like to speak, and maybe the person who made those anonymous comments would
Let
like
me first read Kathy Feeney's comment. She said, thank you, Mr. Mello. I am on a list for a voucher. What is the status of the vouchers regarding dispersion? I am 66, a widow renting in a walk-up in Hoboken. I would like to transition to senior housing. Is there a housing liaison I can work with?
There's someone that contacted me about reading in a statement. I don't know what the legality of how we handle that.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, I'll defer to you on that question.
Yes, I've been
Can you
contacted.
identify the person by name, Commissioner?
Yeah, it's Sandra Kelly.
Yeah, as long as it's not a very long statement, I think you could do that.
Okay, hold on. Let me get it here.
With respect to the previous thing that the chair just read, that's really not something that's appropriate for public comment. It's something that the individual should address to the authority staff, and I assume that's how the executive director and his staff will handle that.
We'll be glad to reach out to her.
Okay, you want me to read this?
Yes,
Mr. Patrick? Yes.
From Sandra Kelly, who posted this on the HHA Facebook page. She can't get on Zoom. Good day. I'm a resident of the Hoboken Housing Authority. Since living here, I've had mold in my unit 4 of the 8 years living here. I have had to disclose my medical information to our director to prove that the mold was making my COPD worse. Now I have emphysema, not something that can be cured still this day. A molded window is still in my unit. I think it would be fair that I get a rent break now that my condition will result in my death in the future. I do not have Zoom, only Facebook. I'm putting my statement here. The end.
I think that falls into the same category of something that the staff should direct with the person.
Can you forward that communication? Or did you say it was a comment left on Facebook, or did you say you received that as an email person?
I received it as a direct message.
All right, can you copy and
If
paste
you
that?
don't have any problem, Commissioner Impastato, with resending that email to the executive director, I would suggest that be addressed in the same fashion.
Okay, got it.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
And the other thing is we have to emphasize to people who do not have the ability to get on Zoom that they can do what I'm doing right now, which is to get on by telephone. And that information is furnished to everybody every month.
Okay.
And then in addition to seeing if anybody who is participating in the meeting would like to talk by telephone, the other question, Lords, is there anybody who sent comment by email?
There is no HHA emails. No one sent it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so that concludes the public portion, and then we have.
Mr. Chair, I would just for clarity's sake, in the past, we have opened up the phone line to each participant individually to see if they wanted to speak. I would recommend doing that now. I know that there are a number of people. Some may just be listening for their own edification, but some may wish to participate.
And also, Chairman, to that point, there are people that are leaving comments on Facebook expecting them to be read in. And I know that that's not going to be the case, but maybe you should just explain that the comments on Facebook or during this live session are not to be, they're not going to be read in for the record. I'm assuming that. Anybody that wants to speak during public, instead of leaving the comments, you can say whatever you want to say, but just through the right avenues.
Yes, well, that is the case, that Facebook comments are not part of the record and will not be read into the record. You have to submit that via the Q&A feature on Zoom or join our meeting via the phone, telephonically join the meeting.
It can also be sent by email to hha@myhhanj.com, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. And then do we have, Lourdes, do we have anybody on the telephone?
As per Angel, he has just phone numbers, but no request to speak. So I'm asking him again, if anyone wants to speak, he's telling me no.
All right, so Angel is confirming that nobody who's on the phone is requesting to speak. So do you feel confident that we can move on, Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, so reports of committees. We had a few committees met this week. We didn't meet in prior weeks, although the Housing for Hoboken nonprofit board did meet 2 times in the past month. And then we had the Resident Services Committee and the Finance Committee met this week after Director Recco returned from having to deal with his tragic loss. And by the way, it should be noted, our condolences again to you, Director, on the loss of your sister. May she rest in peace. And those committees basically went over what's on the agenda for this week's meeting. So I will leave that for the resolution discussions. Do we have any other committees that met that I am not a part of? Did the Public Safety Committee meet? Is that what we call it? I forget the exact name we use for it.
Sir, probably the only other comment is that the Professional Procurement Committee does need to meet. I'm setting up some meetings already for the Professional Procurement Committee so we can get the software project going.
All right, sounds good. We can do that next week. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. And the other members of the Procurement Committee, would you be available next week for a meeting? Great.
All right, excuse me.
Yes.
Aren't the ACOP, weren't we supposed to have an ACOP meeting?
And we can, yeah, and we can certainly have one in between now and the next board meeting. I was going to bring the ACOP to the next board meeting. We can certainly have a committee meeting between now and then. Be glad to.
Absolutely.
Welcome it.
Chairman?
Yes.
I'm getting notice that the Facebook feed died. I'm not sure if that is correct or accurate, but that's what I'm being told. If someone wants to look into that.
All right.
It's back on now. Chairman is Erica. It's back on. It says live. It says live and recording.
Chair, if I may.
Yes, Commissioner.
I don't know what committee might be wanting to pick this up, but I had a meeting earlier today with the Hoboken Service Providers Collaborative, and they are basically looking for a space that's the Jubilee lifestyle, community lifestyle, and Boys and Girls Club, and the wonderful young man who is working to build computers and provide them to low-income families, which is an amazing program. And they are actually just looking for space at certain times. So I was wondering what committee we could discuss the possibility at some point, maybe May or June, opening up our community rooms and providing spaces to those service advisors, and maybe provide some parameters that we could do so under, perhaps, limited space, occupancy and social distancing rules that we can provide them with, that they can then turn around and use those spaces for their services. What committee would be best to follow up with that?
That's historically been the Resident Services Committee. Am I right, Director?
Correct.
Okay, that's
Sure.
been historically
Yeah.
the Resident Services Committee, and yeah, we could certainly take that up. Could you send an email to the board members
Absolutely.
detailing what you've learned from them? And what
Definitely will. If you, yeah, I'll send it to you. If you could just let me know who's on that committee, because I'd like to participate in that conversation.
Chair, may I say something? It's Erica.
Yes.
Yes, so we've been working with, and Daniel was on the call. This started back, and I think Commissioner Smith was invited to the first call, but I think he may have attended and then something fell off. It all started with the Jubilee Center and the sale of the Jubilee Center. So we brought in all of the providers to a meeting, and Pastor Elaine took over from there. And again, they have a meeting every other month. They're trying to work together and come up with solutions, because most of those partners, if not all those partners, service the housing authority. So we are very much aware of what's going on, and thank you, Commissioner Smith, for bringing it to our attention.
Okay, great. All right. Yeah, and that committee is Commissioner Impastato, Commissioner Seitzman, and myself. Okay. So let's move forward with, we don't have any unfinished business. So moving on to resolutions. So resolution number 2021-01.01, a resolution to approve the minutes of the December 10th, 2021 monthly board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? If we could have a vote, please, Director.
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato,
Yes.
A. Lewitt,
Yes.
D. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
L. Vega.
Yes.
All right. Next is resolution number 2021-01.02, a resolution authorizing the payment of the monthly list of bills for the Hoboken Housing Authority. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments regarding the monthly list of bills?
Chairman Mello, I have two questions.
Impastato.
Emil, number 17 on the first page, there's no dollar amount. What's the dollar amount of those 6 laptops?
I apologize. That's a mistake. That was from last month. There's no dollar value on that. It's number 18, I believe. Staples, correct?
Yes.
Yes, there's $0 value. I'm sorry about that.
What do you mean? You mean we got 6 laptops donated, or that's just that's from last month?
That was from last month.
And
So,
is
no
I don't
additional laptops were purchased.
Okay, cool. I was gonna say, because how many more laptops do we need to buy? It was, and also I don't see, and it might be on last month's. Is that a COVID expense, right?
The laptops purchases were a COVID expense, correct?
Okay.
For Staples.
Because I don't see an asterisk on this one, but that makes sense. All right. And then the next questions are about the hotels expenses we're still going here. We're getting up there in cost. What are we done with? I thought we were done with Adams.
No, a couple things on that. One is we are nearing completion of the first elevator shaft at Adams. So once that first elevator shaft is done, we move over to the second elevator shaft and start construction on the second elevator shaft. At our job meeting this past week, I have asked the contractor that as soon as they get through with their demolition and any noisy parts of their project, that they notify me. We are having bi-weekly job meetings, so we're keeping close track of it. And then we will be done with any hotel stays there. In the meantime, the staff is looking at any alternative we can find for a cheaper hotel stay. And if there's a possibility of finding one, we'll certainly follow up with that possibility. The project at Adams is scheduled for total completion in April. So it may be as early as April 1st, if not in March, that the contractor turns to us and says they're done with any noise demolition work. But as soon as they give us the high sign and they say they're done with that type of work there, then we'll be moving the family back.
So the both expenses, the Sheraton Lincoln Harbor and Global Luxury Suites, is for one family?
Yes, we had started them out at Sheraton, and then that wasn't adequate, so we moved them over to the other Global.
Why wasn't that adequate?
Daniel knows kind of the detail on that. The Sheraton, I think, Daniel, take this one because I can't remember whether that was one room or two rooms at Sheraton.
So the Sheraton actually have to have 2 rooms that have to be reserved for the family. And the Global Luxury Suite is actually 1 apartment where they can keep the entire family. It's a family of 5 with 3 children, 9-year-old girl, 4-year-old boy, and a 4-month-old girl. So they wanted to make sure to keep the family together. Additionally, they have a full kitchen at Global Luxury. Sheraton did, at the beginning, they mentioned that they were going to provide hot plate and a refrigerator. And then 2 weeks later, they declined to provide that to the tenant. As such, an alternative was looked for, and we were able to find this location.
What is the average cost per night that we're spending?
So there is no per night cost. What they do is, since this is a extended stay, they average everything out for 1 month. So they don't give you, it's not like a hotel stay where they give you.
What's the monthly fee?
It's, I think it's on your.
It's $6,979.54.
A month?
That's correct.
For a 3-bedroom, is that correct?
Two bedrooms, sir.
You get the best apartment in Hoboken for that.
It's an apartment.
Okay, so here's my next idea for you guys. 2 things. One, we're in a rental crisis right now in Hoboken. There are 800 units on the market right now, and some of those are furnished. Now I know that they have there's a lot of special needs here that we need to address.
Yes.
But I'm wondering if we've done the research to see if there's a furnished apartment in Hoboken or Jersey City that we can potentially, even if it's Airbnb, that we can get them in, because that's a crazy amount.
Commissioner, I agree wholeheartedly. And I brought up in both the finance meeting and the resident services meeting, I brought up this issue. And Daniel, have you made any progress on finding a cheaper alternative and or, negotiating with the current provider did they apply any sort of a long-term stay discount, which they do? I mean, that provider, I've seen that they do it as indicated because they offer up their rooms on Airbnb and they point to a
900.
Yes, they do offer some of the rooms on Airbnb. However, not comparable to the existing apartment that is occupied by the tenant. I spoke to them about discounted pricing, and unfortunately, that is the discount that they're offering. I am not, just like you, I'm not really happy with the pricing, so we continue to look for alternatives and be able to have that tenant relocated to a cheaper alternative that meets her current requirements and needs.
All right, well,
I would be more than happy
I share your concerns wholeheartedly.
Well, the second thing, and just thinking outside the box here, could we talk to the city of Hoboken maybe and see if there is an apartment? I don't know how we would do this, but maybe there's an apartment in one of these senior buildings or clock towers. Unfortunately, we've seen some recent residents succumb to the COVID virus. Maybe there is a unit that has become available over the course of the summer or maybe there's inventory in one of these buildings that maybe we can get this family in at a reduced rate. But offline, I will send you tomorrow, Danny, a list of finished apartments in Jersey City and Hoboken that have elevators, that, you know, are nice buildings that we could get this family in at. I mean, that's insane. That's a luxury brownstone in Hoboken, like 3-4 bedroom.
Yeah,
There's
agree.
no way we should be paying that amount. That is crazy, especially during COVID-19, and we're
Everybody's hurting.
like that. We should report them for price gouging during global pandemic. That's insane.
I have a suggestion. Why don't we contact HUD and have them do a pass-through of the subsidy?
Great idea. Why? I just don't understand why we're not thinking of this. We're just like, oh, we'll spend $6,900 on a hotel. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think Daniel has been looking at Airbnb. He has been researching. He has been calling. The ones we found that were adequate had some issue with them that didn't fit. And I have to be concerned about confidentiality. I hope people understand that I can't share everything about the family. But it has to fit certain criteria. And we've been excited about 3 or 4 of them we found, and we've investigated them and found that didn't work, or that didn't work for that reason. So we are open and more than happy to hear any type of suggestion you might have on this.
Yeah, let's talk offline, Danny, tomorrow, and go through some of these listings that are there. There's so many. People have fled Hoboken, Jersey City area. People are living with their parents again, and all that nonsense. So, just to give you an example, this time last year there were 33 units on the rental market. Currently, there's 792. So, just to give you an idea.
Thank you, sir.
So let's do that tomorrow. Yep.
I may have missed this, but why don't we place the family in one of our empty 125 units?
We have no unit of their unit size that does not have a barrier to their particular issues.
We can't discuss what the issue is.
Correct.
We went over this last month, yeah.
And believe me, we turned our stock over. We would have done that in a minute.
Chair, I just have one question about the bills, if I may, if you guys are done.
Yes.
It's item number 12 in the monthly administrative expenses. The payment of resident towing charges, December 2020. Did we tow residents and we weren't supposed to? Why are we paying resident towing fees?
Yes, because one of our managers made a mistake and towed some cars that shouldn't have been towed. And we've corrected that issue, and it was not fun, but we corrected that issue, and therefore we had to pay for that expense.
I have a question on the bills as well. Line item 3 under monthly administrative expenses, replace a door. Is that one door for $7,500?
Yes, it was one exterior door. That's correct.
That's a brand new door. That's a 1-year-old door. Is that correct?
It's a brand new door. I don't believe it's 1 year old.
What happened
Part
to
of
it?
the replacement process, though, right? That we just bought all these new doors. It was one of those new doors that we just bought. It has to be replaced.
After a door and hardware. Mr. Mohan, do you know where this door was? Was this the boiler room door?
It says 406 Marshall Drive.
Right.
Exterior door.
Mr. Mohan, are you on the line? You might be muted.
It's an inventory room door, and it is a special door. It has a built-in 2 doors in one opening, and that because of that the cost is high, and it is an installed cost.
Is there
but just for the material?
It's just a door. There's no
security measures.
Security measure to get in.
No, yes, there is a security measure, and that is security alarm outside, not in the door. And door is a 2-part door, bottom portion and top portion in the same frame. It is specially used for inventory, to bring the stuff out through the window.
What happened to the door that we need to replace it? How did it break?
It did not break, and we wanted to make it bigger. We made a bigger opening, and this is a bigger size door than the previous one. And the previous one was short, small size, and it was difficult to get stuff in and out without damaging the frame. So that is why frame was damaged and doors were damaged.
So how many years ago did we put all brand new doors?
That I don't know.
Oh, about
And
3
I
years
believe
ago,
that
but
there were two.
this wouldn't have been one of those doors. This isn't an entry door into a building,
Oh, okay. Well,
into
that
our
I'm not aware
inventory
of.
area. And Mr. Joshi wanted in our inventory area for security purposes, a double opening door. So you don't have to open the whole door. Top portion can be opened and inventory supplies can be given out through that door, leading to better security in our inventory. But this wasn't one of those doors.
Oh, okay. So this wasn't a brand new door. All right, I got that.
No,
But
this is an old
for the
door.
last for the existence of the housing authority, this door has been that way, functioning the way it was, correct?
Most probably, yes.
Yes.
So
So we
I
prioritize
understand.
this door over a tenant's apartment.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's like 70, like we're just throwing, it's like we won the lotto and we're like, oh, let's get a brand new door for convenience. The door didn't even break.
I strongly disagree with that. If we don't
I know
have
you're going to
tight
disagree with me. You
Wait,
disagree
wait,
with
wait.
everything I say.
May
Everything I
may
question, you disagree, Mark, but we're in
No,
trouble
that's not
status.
true.
Andrew,
That's not
We're
true.
spending
You're having
$100,000
a
on
public
cameras.
meeting.
We're spending $7,500 on doors that aren't broken. We got people living with mold. We've got security cameras not being looked at. We got residents coming on the call crying. We got bathrooms not working. We got it's insane. But I question it, and you're like, I strongly disagree. When do you step up and go, you know what? We don't need to spend
All right,
$7.
Commissioner,
Just like the
Commissioner,
cars.
Commissioner,
You want to buy
not
two
on the
new
floor anymore.
cars.
Commissioner,
You want to buy 2 new cars for $50,000. I had to put my foot down on that one. You disagree with me, but I won that one. So it's like, come on. No, I don't want the door. I vote, take the door out. I make a motion. I make a motion to remove the door from the list of bills. I hopefully it's second, and we can vote on the list of bills without the door.
thank you. There's a motion on the floor to remove the door from the list of bills to be approved. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Vega seconds it. Can we have a vote, please?
H. Foreman,
No.
A. Impastato,
I'm voting to remove the door, right?
Yes.
Yes.
A. Lewitt,
No.
D. Mello,
No.
E. Seitzman,
No.
L. Smith,
It's
Yes.
I don't make sense.
L.
How
Vega.
would you?
Please,
how
we're
would
taking a
you
vote.
It's ridiculous.
I have
L.
I had to Mr. Smith, L. Smith.
Yes.
L. Vega,
Yes.
All right. Now move on to the vote for the list of bills. Motion failed. So now we move on to a vote for the list of bills, please.
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato,
No.
A. Lewitt,
Yes.
D. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
L. Vega.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda, resolution number 2021-01.03, a resolution to ratify the December 12th, 2020 award of an emergency contract to repair a water main break at 540 Marshall Drive. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? If I could have a vote, please, Director.
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato,
Yes.
A. Lewitt,
Yes.
D. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
L. Vega.
Yes.
Resolution number 2021-01.04, resolution to ratify the December 12th, 2020 award of an emergency contract to repair a water main break at 460 8th Street. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? If I could have a vote, please, Director.
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato,
Yes.
A. Lewitt,
Yes.
D. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
L. Vega.
Yes.
Resolution number 2021-01.05, a resolution to award a contract for parking lot repairs at 221 Jackson Street. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? If I could have a vote, please, Director.
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato,
Yes.
A. Lewitt,
Yes.
D. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
L. Vega.
Yes.
Resolution number 2021-01.06, a resolution to award a contract for cleaning and disinfecting services. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
Chairman Mello, I just have a couple of questions.
Yes, Commissioner.
What is the total? I don't have it in front of me. What's the total amount for this contract, and how many times is it for?
Total amount is $212,550. And this would go for 6 complete rounds of cleaning and disinfecting.
6 complete rounds of 212. So I'm just sorry. Let me just do some quick math here. 212 for 6 rounds.
35.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. So here's my concern. We did the emergency cleaning, disinfecting back in, I don't even remember when. I think it was the summertime, for $110,000, and it keeps coming up. But I made a strong argument that was an emergency, so it didn't need the RFP process. But we're continually seeing that was a ridiculous amount of money for cleaning, and several of my colleagues said that no, that's competitive and that's the rate. This firm is doing 6 rounds at 212, which comes out to about $35,000 a round. Okay. My other concern, so you clearly understand and see, and you might say that the first time they did a more extensive deep dive and whatever you want to say, but for that disparity of cost, that $110,000 by that cleaning company was a ripoff, and that was price gouging at its best, and that company should be identified and exposed for what they did, because we're seeing over and over again with the last round of cleaning and where the bids came in for that one and for this one, that you can clean all of our buildings and disinfect for under $50,000, no problem. Now, my second question is, were the companies that applied for the second cleaning RFP, were they notified of this RFP? Is that common practice that you notify and send it out to the ones that have bid in the past?
Director, if you could
Yeah.
address that, but also if you could add to your addressing of that, the quality of the work and the satisfaction with the work on the second provider.
Sure. Emily, you want to talk about our bidding and notification process with us?
Yes, typically I do notify past bidders and resolicit them. In this particular instance, the past bidders had already picked up the bid package, so that wasn't necessary. You could look through my log of the people that solicited, and the 3 bidders from the past had already picked up.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Emil, just to make clear, the first round that we're referring to, the authority opted not to go with any of the 3 bids.
Yeah, we're talking about the
Instead,
second
it
round. Yeah.
awarded the first bid round, I guess. It opted to go with a state contract rather than utilize the bids.
That is correct.
Okay, so we notify now if a company was talking to you guys and submitting paperwork and asking you questions, but they did not submit a bid, you're not in the practice to reach out to them. So they have to submit a bid in order for you to reach out. Is that correct, Emil?
Yes.
Okay, and is there a reason why I sent 2 emails over the last 2 weeks requesting the RFP for that cleaning contract, and I have not received a response?
No, I don't. I did respond to that, sir. You had emailed me directly on Friday, I believe, and I
Right.
took that email and I forwarded it to Mr. Reckel because I'm not in the practice of responding directly to the commissioners. And I said, "Did you want me to respond to that?" Mr. Reckel responded to me on Monday, and I did respond. I could forward you that email. I apologize. If
Yeah,
you didn't receive it.
okay. I appreciate that. I didn't see it. I must have.
Yeah, and Commissioner, I'm sure it was accidental.
Yep.
but we need
That's
to
okay.
refrain from ever directly contacting employees without, CC.
I know. I see. I see. I didn't CC Mark. I sent 2. I did not CC Mark on the first one because I didn't want to bother him with what he was going through. The second time I did CC Mark because I understand what you're saying to not do direct. So that's why I did
Commissioner,
that.
on the sorry to cut you off, but on the second email, you sent it to me from a different email, and I responded
Correct.
to that different email, and that email was sent on Monday at 11:05 a.m. and I copied Mr. Reckel and
Okay, perfect. I'll
Chairperson
go back
Mello
and
on
I'll
it.
go back and look at that. Thank you. I apologize for bringing that up. So the main theme of what I'm trying to get to is I understand probably there's different services and there's different mechanisms in place for these companies to clean. $110,000 to do all of our buildings was absurd. Was absolutely absurd. We are starting to see that. We saw it with the second bid and cleaning. Now that was almost half the price, but they didn't do a great job. And now we're going to see it with this bid, which comes out to about $35,000 a passing. So it's very clear that that's not the case. Now, the overarching theme of all of this is our buildings are still a mess. For anybody writing to me right now, I'm getting message after message. Our buildings are a mess. Now, I don't think a lot of you, my colleagues here, will understand that because I don't think you're walking through our buildings every day. Some of you are, but they're a mess. They are atrocious. And yes, we need to clean them, and yes, we need to disinfect them. It is money we need to spend, but we have to spend money wisely. And I want to make sure, again, I get on the record, $110,000 was a joke. That company should be researched and exposed for what they did. Okay. And that is damn sure. And I'm gonna spearhead that effort. Second thing is that we need to get these buildings cleaned and maintained somehow and repainted at some point. We need the look, the aesthetic look needs to be better. It needs to be better for our residents. It is atrocious walking in these buildings, not only in the units, but in the hallways. So I appreciate the effort of getting it cleaned. And I look forward to making sure that we never use that company again.
I have a question. The cleaning part, like what type of cleaning is it like a deep cleaning or is just passing a?
The first round we did, which Commissioner Pistato and I have been in disagreement with, was an intensive, extensive deep cleaning down to the point of hands and knees, toothbrushes, and corners. The cleaning that's going on now is a good solid cleaning. Wipe it down. I don't have the spec in front of me. Wipe it down, clean it, mop, disinfect handrails, walls, go through hallways, stairwells, and then after that, go back with the spray disinfectant in all stairways and hallways.
I just want to go on record saying we purchased and we've been cleaning throughout all of COVID for under $15,000. All of our properties. I have the machines right in front of me.
These are the applied properties you're referring to.
I know we have cleaning staff. I don't know. I mean, you could have hired a staff, bought the supplies, and been well under $20,000.
It's a great point. It's a great point.
I think I would love to sit with you and run those numbers on what it costs us to bring on a staff and what it costs us for long-term benefits, training, supervision with all of the buildings we have. I would love to go through that exercise with you and do the comparison on bringing on full or part-time staff compared to the cost of contracting out in a public housing authority that's subject to what we are subject to.
But you already have,
Excuse me?
you already have staff,
Well, we do, and they're quite busy.
well, the ones that show up.
And I do take exception to the fact that every one of our buildings are absolutely despicable and deplorable, as Commissioner Impastato likes to convey. I think we do have issues, particularly in the buildings that are troubled buildings, but we also have many, many buildings that I think all of us would be proud to live in.
Chairman Mello, can I just,
Can I just jump in 1 second,
Hold on,
Commissioner
hold on.
Impastato?
Gentlemen, one person at a time. Commissioner Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Mello. Director, I'm just wondering, I keep hearing about the who's in work, how many employees we don't have on a particular day. Is it possible that we be provided an org chart so that we know what employees are where, what positions are staffed, what departments are staffed?
Of course.
So that we can have a firm understanding of where our needs are?
Of course.
Chairman Mello, just 20 seconds here.
Yes, and then Commissioner Seitzman will have the floor. I believe she's
Great.
at the
Yep.
floor.
I appreciate it. One suggestion I think would be smart for Director Recco and his staff to maybe sit down with Commissioner Vega and her staff, if possible, because if you go, I've walked through applied buildings. Wow. I mean, it is spotless. Those buildings are spotless. There are no vagrants. There are no, urine in the elevators. And I know it's comparing apples and oranges, but some cases not really. So maybe a good idea is just let's get some knowledge from one party to the next and get the experience and the expertise that Commissioner Vega and her staff implement on a day-to-day basis, because they're doing something right. They are doing something right, that their buildings are unbelievable and at a very affordable and cost-effective budget. Thank you.
All right.
I'd like to make a comment.
Commissioner Seitzman, and then I will move on to Commissioner Lewitt. Commissioner Seitzman.
Thank you, Chair. In the next couple months, we're going to be bringing in, I believe, a company to help us redevelop. So I think we should take all of these amazing suggestions and as a board commit to working together, not against each other, commit to working together to try to rebuild. We know that this is an issue. I have been there myself. I walked I did it. I just handed out candy canes. I see it. I see it all the time. But we have to work together. We have to come up with solutions as a board, one unified board to work together for the residents, for the greater good. Thank you.
And then Commissioner Lewitt, please.
I'd like to comment after that as well, Chairman, please.
Yes, Commissioner. But Commissioner Lewitt first.
The problem with our buildings, as HUD identified and HUD observed, is the main campus is obsolete. Unfortunately, we've had previously a lot of corruption and work was not done and very well. I see the abuse of the buildings and poor management of the buildings. Also, the applied buildings were rebuilt, I'm guessing, in the 70s and 80s, which makes them 30 years newer than the Housing Authority buildings.
I wouldn't compare.
Therefore, they should be in much better condition.
I agree. I wouldn't compare the two.
Commissioner Mello? And the buildings are very, very well maintained. I've always used it as an example regarding the buildings that I was involved with some of the management of.
Okay.
in
Commissioner
the
Smith, I'm going to go to
organization
Commissioner
and
Foreman
what I
next
did.
because he hasn't had a chance to comment during this discussion. Commissioner Foreman, and then I will go to Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Foreman.
Yes, there's a big difference. We are setting our budget where Applied has a bigger rent roll than we get. We're not getting $4,000, $3,000, or $2,000 or $3,500 a month rent. I'm sure if we were getting that kind of rent, we could go out and hire a bigger staff, or a director can, not us, because we have nothing to do with it, and those buildings would be immaculate. But unfortunately, we are where we're at because of the rent roll. Plain and simple. If we had more money, if the rents were high or market rent, I'm sure they'd be spotless. We're doing I think the director and the staff is doing the best they can in what we have. Thank you.
And then Commissioner Smith, and then we're going to move on from this conversation.
First, I'd respectfully disagree. I think we're not doing a great job with what we have. When we talk about we spent $1 million on cameras over the last however many years or months, and meanwhile we have apartments that are decrepit and our tenants are coming onto our meeting crying about the conditions and the management and the lack of responsiveness of them, I don't think we're doing a great job. And Ms. Seitzman, I'm more than happy to work together to help improve the lives of our tenants, but let's help improve the lives of our tenants. We're not buying $100,000 worth of cameras doesn't go a long way in helping improve their lives. And I've only been on the board, I'm the person who's been on the board the least amount of time. There are people who have been on this board 7, 8 years, and we're talking about these things that have been existing. So please don't lecture me about working together as one board. I'm more than happy to work together as one board when the things are with the mindset of helping the tenants, not helping other organizations. Thank you.
I just have one more thing to say.
Yes, Commissioner Vega.
The housing authorities doesn't only rely on rent. We get funding from HUD, a lot of it.
We do. All right. We are going to move on now. And we need to take a vote on the disinfecting services resolution 2021-01.06. I had a motion and a second, so now we need to take the vote, please.
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato,
I don't see him. I don't see him on.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be part of the meeting at the current moment.
Shall I move on?
Yeah, move on, and if he joins, he can always amend the vote tally.
A. Lewitt,
Unmute
You were
yourself.
muted.
Yes.
Thank you.
B. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
No.
Yes.
L. Vega.
Yes.
All right, and then the next resolution, resolution 2021-01.07, a resolution to extend the contract for the supply of residential appliances. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any comments or questions? All right, if I could have a vote, please.
I have a comment and question.
Yes, please.
On the last rehab on the appliances, we upgraded the appliances to better stoves and larger refrigerators. I want to make sure, and that was all of like $300 an apartment. My God. I want to make sure that we are putting in not the bottom appliances, but we're putting in more accommodatable appliances. To put in a 14 cubic foot refrigerator is worthy of a studio apartment, not a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment. So we need to put 20 foot cubic refrigerators in and better stoves.
And I believe we're
Yes.
doing that with this resolution, correct, Director?
Yes, we are. As a matter of fact, the staff has the shorthand now that these are Aaron Lewitt approved appliances.
Okay.
And we thank you, Commissioner.
I'm serious. That is exactly the conversation we had this week. So we appreciate your help on that. These are up to your standards.
Appreciate your insight and expertise making those.
Are they stainless steel?
No.
Because you have a problem. Everybody.
I'm glad they're not stainless steel. Are
Yeah.
you agree with me? Thank you.
No, they were white. They were upgraded, but they were white, not stainless steel.
Commissioner Vega, you weren't part of our board when I went on my rants about the many dents in my stainless steel appliance, and that
Cleaning.
they're not, yeah, they are not maintainable. They might be a trend, but they are not maintainable at all. I would rather get the most top drawer non-stainless steel refrigerator on the market than get stainless steel anything.
White.
All right. All right, thank you. So if we could have a vote, please.
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato. With us, A. Lewitt,
Yes.
D. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
L. Vega.
Yes.
And is that the last resolution? No, we have one more resolution. Resolution 2021-01.08, a resolution to extend the contract for electrical services. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All right, and this is like a maintenance contract for the electrical work that goes beyond the means of our employees, correct?
Exactly right.
All right. All right. If there's no comments or further comments or questions, could we have a vote, please?
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato, A. Lewitt,
Yes.
D. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
L. Vega.
Yes.
And that's it for resolutions. The only new business I do want to bring up that, you know, I've been speaking with some members of the city council about a resolution that they recently passed regarding, you know, efforts on the state level to put building height limitations on all of Hoboken, which could directly affect our efforts to redevelop our properties, particularly our main campus. So I might be looking forward to put forward a motion that works in sync with that motion that was passed by the City Council of Hoboken. I do want to try to speak to our Assemblywoman who about the issue before we move that formally onto an agenda. But any insight anybody has, if you could communicate with me about that, I would appreciate it. Commissioner Lewitt?
Yes, if we're, you know, we have to raise the ground that the buildings sit on. The first floor will be parking. So if that goes through, we might be limited to as few as 8 stories.
Right.
That would change our whole campus rebuilding, would reduce the number of units, would reduce the number of commercial spaces, and would be really bad for us. So I think we have to push that state resolution away by stacking whoever else here is.
I believe it was Assemblyman Sacco from North Bergen. And then there's also, there was great upward adjustments of the base flood elevations after Sandy, correct?
Yes.
That's how I understood it, yeah. So, I mean, the combination of those factors, it's really gonna limit our ability to redevelop our properties, most likely raise most of our properties and replace them with modern buildings. So it's definitely something we should get on board at, and I would like to have something ready for that on by the next meeting. All right, that should be it for new business. We have no need for a closed session, so I make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then, Director, I'm gonna call you right after the meeting because we do want to address former Commissioner Vega's concerns with all haste, all deliberate haste. All right, thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.